Welcome to the Military Chessboard channel, and thank you for joining us for today's deep dive. I have a question for you as we begin. Are we standing on the very edge of an entirely new era of global conflict?
Well, that is the exact question on everyone's mind right now.
Today, we are opening up a massive stack of intelligence briefings, government statements, and raw data. And frankly, this material points to a world that is shifting right beneath our feet.
It really does. The sheer volume of it is, well, it is overwhelming.
Our mission today is to untangle a rapidly evolving web of global tensions. We are looking at a severe military escalation in the Middle East, its immediate impact on European territory, a sudden shift in global nuclear posturing, and we will even look at some highly unusual seismic activity in the American desert.
There is certainly a lot to get through.
Joining me to make sense of this incredibly complex geopolitical landscape is our resident expert, Morgan Jones.
Thank you. It is wonderful to be here.
Before we jump straight into it, we need to set some ground rules for today's deep dive.
Yes, absolutely. Look, just a quick heads up before we start unpacking this stack of materials. We are dealing with highly charged intelligence today. We have statements coming out of Washington, Moscow, Tehran, and various European capitals.
Right.
Our job here is not to take a side, and we are certainly not endorsing any of the political or military claims made in these reports.
We are just looking at the board.
Spot on. We are simply laying out exactly what these actors are saying and what the raw data shows so you can see the entire situation clearly.
That is exactly the goal. Laying out the pieces so you, the listener, can understand the broader picture.
Where should we begin?
Here is our roadmap. We are going to start with the imminent clash between the United States and Iran. From there, we will move into the internal political debates happening in Washington and the rather stark warnings coming out of Moscow.
Which are quite severe.
They are. Then, we will explore an unprecedented drone strike on European Union territory, followed by the controversial debates surrounding nuclear weapons in France and Ukraine. Finally, we will end with those mysterious tremors in the Nevada desert.
Right. Let us get straight into it then.
We are kicking off with the starkest detail from our gathered materials. The United States government has issued an urgent, sweeping directive.
And it is a massive one.
It is. They are urging their citizens to immediately leave 15 different countries across the Middle East.
15 countries.
Yes. The State Department is heavily pushing its Smart Travel Enrollment Program to facilitate emergency contacts and repatriation flights. And the catalyst for this massive evacuation order.
The briefings point to a 24-hour window.
Exactly. A 24-hour window for a massive wave of United States airstrikes.
Look, that 24-hour window, combined with a 15-country evacuation order, is a profound indicator of scale.
How so?
Well, when a government tells its citizens to clear out of a geographical footprint, that massive...
They are not anticipating a localized skirmish.
Exactly. They are preparing for a regional shockwave. The intelligence we are reviewing outlines a very specific strategic objective for Washington.
They are looking to systematically blind the air defenses first, correct?
Yes. Following an initial wave of attacks designed to do exactly that, the next phase is reportedly set to target Iran's ballistic missile production facilities, their drone manufacturing hubs, and their naval power.
This moves far beyond a proportional response.
It does. The reported strategy is about fundamentally dismantling a nation's ability to project military power.
Right. And former President Donald Trump was quoted recently saying, "We have not even really hit hard yet. A big hit is coming soon."
But reading through these situational reports, it is abundantly clear that Iran is not just waiting for the impact.
No, they are not. They have already launched a multi-front counteroffensive. We are seeing reports that 6 United States soldiers have been killed.
Furthermore, an Allied fuel ship was attacked in the strategic Strait of Hormuz.
And in a massive escalation that affects the entire globe, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps declared that the Strait of Hormuz is entirely closed.
Closed everyone.
Yes, warning they will target any commercial or military vessel attempting to pass through.
You know, closing the Strait of Hormuz is essentially putting a tourniquet on the global economy.
Because of the oil.
Exactly. Roughly 20% of the world's total global oil consumption passes through that specific waterway.
But the cascade of regional attacks does not stop at the water.
Far from it.
The materials detail that drones struck the massive Ras Tanura oil refinery in Saudi Arabia. That is one of the oldest and largest refineries in the world.
and the strike forced it to completely suspend operations.
Meanwhile, the nation of Qatar was forced to completely halt its liquefied natural gas production.
This happened after Qatari Defense Forces had to shoot down 2 Iranian Su-24 fighter jets.
Along with 7 inbound missiles and 5 drones. Hold on, I want to pause on that for a second. Why does shooting down threats force a country to stop its gas production? Is that a technical necessity or a geopolitical one?
Oh, it is entirely a technical necessity and a terrifying one.
Why is that?
Gas extraction and refinement infrastructure is highly pressurized and incredibly volatile.
Ah, I see.
If you have active aerial combat happening directly overhead, the debris from an intercepted missile or a downed fighter jet raining down on a pressurized gas terminal could trigger a catastrophic secondary explosion.
So they have to shut the systems down to prevent a localized tactical strike from turning into an industrial disaster.
Exactly. Which brings us to the ultimate question for anyone listening. What does a closed strait, a burning refinery in Saudi Arabia, and halted gas production in Qatar actually mean for you?
The ripple effect.
Precisely. The takeaway here is not just that oil facilities are vulnerable. It is that modern asymmetric drone warfare has completely erased the geographic advantage of traditional superpowers.
A $20,000 drone built from off-the-shelf components can now dictate global inflation.
Spot on. The reports explicitly connect these localized strikes to the immediate threat of global energy prices skyrocketing.
In fact, they specifically note warnings that consumers in the United Kingdom could face record prices at the fuel pump within days as a direct result of these events.
When the Middle East catches fire, the rest of the world pays for it at the register.
Okay, let us unpack this a bit more. Speaking of strategy, or maybe the lack of it, let us shift to the internal response within the United States.
This is where it gets quite complicated.
Because reading through the transcripts of these Washington press briefings, it looks like there are deeply conflicting visions about what this massive military campaign is actually supposed to achieve.
Very conflicting.
On one hand, you have Vice President Mike Pence assuring the public that this will not become an endless generational war like Iraq or Afghanistan.
He stated very clearly that the administration will not let the country fall into a multi-year conflict without clear goals.
Stressing that the sole objective is stopping Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon.
But that projection of clarity is strongly disputed behind closed doors.
By Senator Mark Warner.
Yes, Senator Mark Warner, the Democratic chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, he expressed profound concerns about what he calls completely unclear goals.
Following a classified meeting with administration officials, Senator Warner claimed he heard at least 4 different operational objectives in a matter of days.
4 different objectives.
Yes. These ranged from simply degrading nuclear and ballistic missile capabilities to outright regime change to sinking the entire Iranian naval fleet.
You know, Senator Warner hearing 4 different objectives in a single week sounds less like a unified military doctrine?
And more like a Washington focus group trying to find a slogan.
That is a very apt way to put it, and it highlights a severe strategic risk.
Furthermore, Senator Warner argues that the immediate existential threat is not actually directed toward the United States homeland.
Right, he argues it is directed toward Israel.
He cautioned that treating a regional threat to Israel as equivalent to a direct homeland threat to the United States is pushing American foreign policy into entirely unprecedented and dangerous territory.
And while Washington debates its end goals, the view from Moscow is incredibly grim.
We have stark warnings from Dmitry Medvedev.
Yes. When asked in a recent interview if World War III had already begun, his response was chilling.
He said that technically no.
But if the United States continues what he called a crazy path of regime change, a global conflict will certainly happen.
And literally any minor event could be the trigger.
He views the military buildup against Iran as part of a broader, aggressive strategy by the United States and its allies to maintain unilateral global dominance.
What stands out in Medvedev's rhetoric is his highly specific warning regarding the Iranian Supreme Leader, Ali Khamenei.
Medvedev argues that any attempt by Western forces to assassinate the Supreme Leader would be a catastrophic strategic error.
He points out that Khamenei is not just a political head of state.
No, he is considered the spiritual father to nearly 300 million Shia Muslims globally.
He essentially argued that an assassination would turn Khamenei into a religious martyr overnight.
Precisely. This perfectly illustrates the concept of unintended consequences in geopolitics,
which military planners call blowback.
Exactly. Medvedev predicts that instead of fracturing the Iranian state, Decapitating the religious leadership would actually forge an unbreakable Iranian societal unity.
He believes it would cause Tehran to triple their covert efforts to acquire a nuclear deterrent.
Utilizing the massive wave of social solidarity that Washington would have inadvertently created.
It is a stark warning about the unpredictable generational ripple effects of targeting ideological leadership.
It really is. The idea of a contained war is clearly breaking down.
And nothing illustrates that better than our next topic. Here is where it gets really interesting. We are looking at a historic first in modern warfare.
For the first time, this specific Middle Eastern conflict has physically spilled over onto European Union territory.
The briefings detail that an Iranian-made drone struck the United Kingdom's Royal Air Force Base at Akrotiri,
which is located on the island of Cyprus.
The reports state that one drone actually impacted the runway, while two others were successfully intercepted as they approached the airspace.
The strategic dilemma this creates for the United Kingdom and the European Union is immense.
Because Akrotiri is not just a minor outpost.
Far from it. It is the United Kingdom's most critical listening post and staging ground in the Eastern Mediterranean.
Following the strike, the Ministry of Defense had to put the base on the highest possible level of alert.
They scrambled F-35 fighter jets and activated advanced anti-drone radar systems.
And perhaps most tellingly, they ordered an emergency, mandatory evacuation of the family members of United Kingdom military personnel stationed at the base.
Now hold on. If they are evacuating families, that tells me they expect the base to get leveled.
Or at least targeted by a sustained barrage, not just harassed by a stray drone.
Furthermore, Cyprus is a European Union member state.
Right. If an Iranian proxy hits European Union territory, doesn't that trigger a completely different tier of international defense treaties?
It absolutely pushes the boundaries of those treaties, which is why the diplomatic fallout is so severe.
And regarding the evacuation, you are entirely correct.
It marks a shift in threat assessment, from sporadic harassment to anticipating the base as a primary strategic target.
If we connect this to the broader timeline, the timing of this strike is not a coincidence.
Not at all. It happened just hours after the United Kingdom formally agreed to allow the United States to use its military bases, including Akrotiri, to launch strikes against Iranian missile sites.
It represents a direct physical consequence for a diplomatic agreement.
It shatters the illusion that providing logistical support from afar guarantees safety from the conflict zone.
And regarding the origin of these drones, the intelligence suggests they were likely launched by Hezbollah proxy forces operating in nearby Lebanon.
Which is just a short trip across the water.
This puts the president of Cyprus, Nikos Christodoulides, in a remarkably precarious position.
Very precarious. He urgently issued a public statement denying any national involvement, insisting that Cyprus is not participating in any military campaigns and has no intention of doing so.
But regardless of his diplomatic intent, the reality of the war has arrived on his shores.
With proxy forces effectively erasing borders and hitting European territory, it brings us to the global nuclear ripple effect.
We are seeing a sudden, dramatic shift in European defense doctrines, starting with France.
Yes, President Emmanuel Macron announced from a military base, specifically one housing ballistic missile submarines, that France will actively extend its nuclear arsenal.
He stated that their nuclear doctrine must be adjusted to adapt to new realities,
explicitly citing Russia's continuous development of its arsenal and China's rapidly growing military capabilities.
But the most fascinating detail to me is that Macron declared France will no longer publicly disclose the exact size of its nuclear stockpile.
That is a classic return to the doctrine of strategic ambiguity.
By hiding the numbers, you increase your deterrence factor.
Because adversaries have to plan for the worst-case scenario. Based on data from the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, France currently possesses fewer than 300 warheads.
To put that in perspective, that is about 13 times less than what the United States or Russia holds.
But Macron's message was blunt. If France is forced to utilize these weapons, no nation, no matter how powerful or vast its territory, would be able to fully protect itself or recover intact.
He's also pushing what the briefings call a strategy of forward nuclear deterrence.
Yes, and this is where the map of Europe gets very tense.
Macron mentioned that at least 8 European nations, including the United Kingdom, Germany, Poland, the Netherlands, Belgium, Greece, Sweden, and Denmark, have expressed interest.
Interest in hosting French nuclear weapons or participating in joint nuclear exercises.
This is a massive shift away from relying solely on the American nuclear umbrella.
However, the Kremlin immediately responded with a severe counterthreat.
Moscow stated that while Russia does not threaten Europe, They explicitly warn they will target the sovereign territory of any nation that allows the deployment of nuclear weapons aimed at Russia.
And this atmosphere of nuclear panic bleeds directly into the conflict in Ukraine.
The rhetoric there is getting just as extreme, even from outside actors.
The reports highlight a statement from a German-Finnish businessman named Kim.com,
who sparked a massive online debate by suggesting that Russia should abandon diplomacy entirely.
He proposed that Moscow should issue a strict one-week ultimatum to Ukraine and Western allies to end the war.
And if they refuse, Russia should simply use nuclear weapons to force a surrender.
He called this the ultimate nightmare for Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky.
Now, we must emphasize that this is a statement from a controversial tech businessman, not a government official with launch codes.
But it serves as a terrifying barometer for the temperature in the room. The rhetoric surrounding tactical nuclear use has become entirely normalized in public discourse.
Furthermore, the materials detail unverified intelligence claims from the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, the SVR.
They allege that France and the United Kingdom are actively considering transferring nuclear technology to Ukraine.
Specifically, they claim one option being debated is the transfer of TN-75 small nuclear warheads.
Let us add some context to that. The TN-75 has a yield of about 150 kilotons.
To put that in perspective, that is roughly 10 times the destructive power of the bomb dropped on Hiroshima.
It is considered small for a modern submarine-launched ballistic missile, but it is still a world-altering, city-leveling weapon.
Absolutely. And I want to stress, just as our materials do, that there is absolutely no independent confirmation from Paris, London, or Kiev regarding these SVR allegations.
It could very well be a Russian information operation designed to justify their own escalation.
However, what is verified is President Zelensky's actual diplomatic maneuvering.
He has openly stated his intention to leverage the escalating situation in the Middle East to Ukraine's advantage.
He is offering to send Ukraine's absolute best experts in drone interception to assist countries in the Middle East who are currently under attack.
In exchange for this vital technical support, he expects these nations, some of whom have historically strong ties to Moscow, to help push forward peace negotiations with Russia on Ukraine's terms.
It is a remarkable geopolitical trade. Ukraine is taking the hard-earned, brutal tactical knowledge they have gained from fighting Russian drones for years.
And they are exporting it to buy diplomatic leverage in the Middle East.
It shows how deeply intertwined these two seemingly separate theaters of war have actually become.
It is the perfect example of how the modern chessboard operates. A technical innovation on the front lines of Eastern Europe becomes a bargaining chip in the Persian Gulf.
While the rhetoric escalates in Europe and the Middle East, something very unusual is happening back in the United States.
Yes, the Nevada situation.
We are looking at a swarm of seismic anomalies near a highly classified United States military testing site in the remote state of Nevada.
This facility is colloquially known as Area 52.
Which is part of the massive Tonopah Test Range Complex.
The raw data from the United States Geological Survey recorded 16 earthquakes measuring over 2.5 on the Richter scale in just a 24-hour period.
If you look at the week prior, there were over 100 tremors clustered in that specific grid.
This raises an important question for seismologists and defense analysts alike.
Are these natural tectonic shifts, or are they man-made events?
Experts noted in the briefings acknowledged that the Nevada desert is seismically active, and this could be a completely natural geological cluster.
However, the history of this specific location is what makes it a geopolitical focal point.
This precise grid in Nevada was historically used for underground nuclear testing.
And seismologically speaking, underground nuclear detonations produce seismic signals, specifically the ratio of P waves to S waves that can look very similar to natural earthquakes to the untrained eye,
often triggering a cascade of smaller natural aftershocks in the surrounding fault lines.
And it is the timing that really makes you stop and analyze the data.
Several international observers, including reports from the Daily Mail, explicitly pointed out that this sudden massive spike in seismic activity coincides exactly with the massive military escalation between the United States, Israel, and Iran.
The very escalation we discussed at the beginning of this broadcast.
As of the materials we are reading, there has been absolutely no official statement from Washington about resuming any form of underground nuclear testing.
But in the realm of international deterrence, the absence of a statement speaks volumes.
It does. A silent, unexplained cluster of tremors at a known testing site leaves room for significant speculation among foreign intelligence agencies.
It forces the observer, whether in Moscow or Tehran, to wonder if the United States is quietly conducting subcritical tests to ensure arsenal readiness.
Or perhaps executing a deliberate, unspoken flex of strength to its adversaries during a time of extreme global tension.
Sometimes letting your adversary's imagination run wild is a strategy in itself.
It certainly is.
So, what does this all mean for you, the listener, trying to make sense of the daily news cycle? Let us take a step back and summarize the staggering breadth of the events we just analyzed.
We started with burning oil refineries in Saudi Arabia and a 24-hour warning for widespread airstrikes.
We moved to the United Kingdom, frantically evacuating military families from an airbase in Cyprus because proxy forces brought the war to their doorstep.
We looked at the president of France, expanding his nuclear arsenal while keeping the numbers a secret.
And the president of Ukraine trading drone tactics for diplomacy.
And we finished with 100 mysterious earthquakes rattling a classified military base in the American desert.
If there is one overarching takeaway from analyzing this data, it is how absolutely interconnected global security has become.
A policy debate in a Washington committee room or a strategic military decision in Tehran does not stay isolated.
It instantly translates into the price you pay for petrol at a pump in London.
It translates into profound nuclear doctrine shifts in Paris.
And it translates into desperate diplomatic bartering in Kyiv.
The geographical walls between regional conflicts have completely fallen down. We are no longer looking at isolated chessboards.
It is one single, highly volatile game. And that leads me to a final provocative thought that I want to leave you with today.
God?
We have seen that through the use of cheap, asymmetric drone warfare and deniable proxy groups, a regional conflict can instantly reach across the sea and strike an allied base on an entirely different continent.
The rules have changed.
With that reality staring us in the face, I want you to ask yourself, does the old traditional concept of a contained war even exist anymore? Or is every local conflict now just a spark waiting for a global powder keg?
That is certainly something to think about.
We have covered a lot of heavy, incredibly complex ground today, and we hope this deep dive has helped clarify the sheer scale and the hidden mechanics of the events unfolding around us.
Thank you for having me.
We want to hear from you. Please like this video, leave a comment below sharing your perspective on these global developments, and make sure to subscribe to the Military Chessboard channel for more deep dives into the events shaping our world. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.